Hey, brothers and sisters. Now, I've shown you this book before, but I'm going to take out another passage out of this book to solidify my point from the book Guardians of the Valley, Chickasaw in Colonial, South Carolina, and Georgia. All right. It's obviously, I've shown this before, like I said, this book before, but this is obviously Negro Indian. And with the feather of my right here on his forehead. All right. But I've stated this stuff before, but I want to take hammer home or something else. You know, you listen to some of these stupid Negroes like from the Amon Ra Squad, or you listen to these dudes like Sarah Susan said, they make you throw up, man. Because they obviously have not done no homework, and they keep quoting outdated information from Negro historians, man, who some of them were in question mark in a lot of things they were doing and saying. Some of them I respected, but many of them were question marks. It's so sad. But these Negroes, when you present them with this information, they just want to try to deflect, constantly deflect, and just say we're descendant of African slaves. But when you look at the total equation of it, these Negroes have been paid off, man. These organizations have been paid off. These Negroes have been getting money by outside entities, man, outside of our community, paying them off to continue to deflect and distract us from learning our true history. And they're traders. All of them are traders, man. They're traders. They're getting money to sell you out. And you should see this because our people were already here. And no so-called mythical red man was here before us. The original people in America were what you call black people, who some of us had a reddish-brown skin complexion. But these ignorant idiots are not going to want to hear this information because they have already been heavily indoctrinated from the sorry-ass schooling that they received. Going from K through postdoctoral work, all right, or post-college work, all right, to masters and doctoral work. These are idiots, all right. But what do you expect from these jackasses? And I'm gonna go on here. I'm gonna read a few things that I'm gonna get out of here and make this video too long. All right, I'm gonna go right here. Start right here. All right, put the little light a little bit better there. Right here. Focus, and boom, here it is. Okay. Ties of kingship and common culture bound the 8 towns together. Historian R.L. M. Gibson lists the 6 clans: the Minku, chief; the Shai, raccoon, coon; Coaisho, panther; Spanai, Spanish; Nanai, fish; Hashona, shunk, and acknowledges that the number varied over the years. Because clan members marry outside their own clan, their relatives were scattered among the villages. Where Squirrel King's band moved to the Savannah River, they retained important blood connections with the villages of the homeland. Each clan had its leader or headman, and one of these, because of his wisdom or prowess in war, will be recognized as the spokesperson of the village. Like other southeastern Indians, the Chickasaw were matrilineal. The children belonged to the mother's clan. The Chickasaw shared other traditions with their neighbors: the annual harvest ceremony, or brisk, a belief in a supreme being and an afterlife, and a division of labor between men and women in which men did the hunting and fighting, and women farmed and took care of domestic chores. The Chickasaw men were distinguished from other tribes by their superiority of warfare and by their pride in that superiority. Their women sometimes followed them into battle, chanting war songs. The introduction of firearms by Carolina traders marked a major transition in Chickasaw behavior. In the first decade of the century, the men of the tribe found an occupation more profitable than that of hunting game. They raided their bow and arrow neighbors for slaves to sell to the traders for servitude on the sugar islands of the West Indies. I repeat, they raided their bow and arrow neighbors for slaves to sell to the traders for servitude on the sugar islands of the West Indies. Does that sound familiar? The Chickasaw women moved by admiration for the traders of their wares, produced children of mixed blood in such numbers that the traders came to be referred to the nation as the breed. Narni insists that Chickasaw women did not cohabit promiscuously or without proper ceremony. The women in question required that the suitor approach her mother's brother for his consent. The swain then would send gifts to the mother, who had to deliberate with her brothers and sons before accepting the gifts and allowing the union. With the permission, the match was consummated, and the trader became an affiliated member of the clan. Marriage to one woman did not prevent a man, whether Chickasaw or British, from taking a second or third wife. Now, remember I mentioned, I read that twice, and go back, about they raided the tribes who were militarily not as strong, and they enslaved them. So doesn't this sound familiar? And they shipped them to the sugar canes of the West Indies. Doesn't this stuff sound familiar, man? You didn't have to go to Africa to get people. You had them already here. All right? And some of my people just don't want to hear this. You know, it's sad. But I'm going to say those are not our people. Those are just some Negroes who continue to run their mouths, man, and want to be slaves from Africa. I'm put that way. Let me just put it that way. Because it's getting to be really sickening how very ill-informed some Negroes are, man, about our true history. And they want us to remain just slaves from Africa. All right? Now, I've talked about this book before. I'm not going to read all this stuff up in here, but I'm going to read a few other things right here. Let me get a focus. While serving his Savannah River neighbors, Squirrel King also served his own people, those who accompanied him and those who remained behind in the homeland, by protecting the trading lifeline that ran from Charlestown through Savannah town to the Indian Nation. Edmund Atkins, the first Royal Indian Superintendent, would say that the Savannah River Chickasaws, the chief service they are of in that post, is a guarding of our traders up and down in time of any danger between the nation and the Creek country. They had heard Squirrel King in Charlestown. Atkins stated that Squirrel King had won the reputation of a great warrior and respected tribes other than his own before coming east. Atkins was certainly mistaken when he wrote that Squirrel King was a man that opened the Indian War in 1715. All right. The Chickasaw played no part in the Yamasee War of that year. This is after 1619, okay? And you know how the Yamasee look. I don't show you pictures of that. But Squirrel King might have won his reputation in the First Chickasaw-French War of 1720. Prior to that year, the Chickasaw had confined themselves to raids against the French allied Choctaw. In 1720, accusing a Frenchman living among them of being a spy, they executed him. They then raided settlements along the Mississippi River. The French retaliated by instigating a major Choctaw invasion of the Chickasaw country in April 1722 that resulted in the destruction of 3 Chickasaw villages. French accounts state that 400 Chickasaws were killed and 100 taken prisoner, probably in the egregious exaggeration but indicative of serious damage. Louisiana Governor Jean-Baptiste Lemonnier, Sire de Bienville, boasted that he stirred up the war between Choctaws and Chickasaws in order that their destruction may make it impossible for them to unite against us, as might happen sooner or later. In anticipation of another attack, the Chickasaws grouped their villages more closely along the Choctaw attack. South Carolina's overtures to come east reached the nation at the time of the disruption. Squirrel King and his followers accepted the invitation to relocate upon Savannah River, expecting others to follow. 2 other important leaders of the group were Mingo Stobie and the Doctor. Mingo Stobie may well have been the recognized leader of those who invited Squirrel King to be the protector. The Doctor's name probably indicated that he held a privileged place as a medicine man. Mingo Stobie, and the Doctor occupied places of honor amongst the people, and the British officials treated them with respect. Both Mingo Stobie and the doctor deferred to the Squirrel Kings in manner of protecting to war. And I'm going to skip on because I'm not going to read all this time, but I want to just read certain things. Okay, here it is. The place chosen by Squirrel King and his companions had an unfortunate history with previous Indian settlers. Carolina traders established a trading post with the Savannah Indians in 1692 to exploit trade in slaves, deerskins, and furs with the various Indian tribes who came to be collectively known as Creeks. Alright? The outpost was called Savannah Town. When a wandering member of Robert Cavalier de La Salle's expedition found his way up the Tennessee River system and down the Savannah River to introduce himself to the English traders there in 1699. The Louisiana French set their ambitions on the Savannah River as the eastern boundary of their territory. They established a post at Biloxi, Mississippi in 1699 and at Mobile, Alabama in 1702. During the war between the Carolinas on one side and the Yamasee and the fraction of the Creeks on the other, the French allied with the Creeks and reinforced their claim to all the land west of the Savannah River. Carolina responded by erecting Fort Moore at Savannah Town in 1716. Louisiana countered with Fort Toulouse at the confluence of the Coosa and the Tallapoosa rivers in Upper Creek country, the Tallapoosa. These names are so obvious. Governor Robert Daniels stressed the importance of Fort Moore to the Carolina Assembly. I look upon Savannah garrison as the key to our settlement. It is the storehouse where we lay our arms, ammunition, and necessaries for supplies of Cherokees and other friendly Indians, and should that place be deserted through famine, I believe it will be of fatal consequences to this government. Fort Moore, with its flimsy 4-foot walls and antiquated weaponry, represented a fervent aspiration for security rather than a guarantee. Not until the Chickasaws came did the Carolinas feel so much safe from marauding enemy Indians. Even then theirs was a fragile sense of security. Alright, I'm going to skip further down because, like I said, I'm not going to read all this. I'm just making a point, and I'm going to go. I might have read this point before, but I'm going to read this again in this video, and because this needs to be stated. Alright, this is on page, page 17. Hold up, I think I'll go to 16 to 17. And this is really need to be stated right here. I've stated this before. I think I read this before, but I'm going to read this again to a lot of these Negroes who want to be stuck in slavery and just think of themselves as a slave. Alright? An aura of mystery surrounds the Uchis, whom historians generally prefer to call Uchis. Their origin is unknown, and their language is unique. For a time, they lived at the Chestowe or the Hiwassee River in Tennessee, and may have lived on the Ogeechee River in Georgia. Look, just the names are very obvious. An aura of mystery surrounds the Uchis, from historians generally prefer to call the Uchis as in Utah. Their origin is unknown, and their language is unique. For a time, they live in Chestowe on the Hiwassee River in Tennessee. Chestowe, Hiwassee, Tennessee. May have lived on the Ogeechee River. Geechee. Okay, Ogeechee. Let me get it clear. Ogeechee River. I'm going to read this again. An aura of mystery surrounds the Uchis, whom historians generally prefer to call the Uchis. Their origin is unknown, and their language is unique. For a time, they lived at the Chestowe on the Hiwassee River in Tennessee. Look at these names, man. Look how similar they are. And may have lived on the Ogeechee River in Georgia. Geechee. Ogeechee. Geechee. named after Uchis, Utah, Ogeechee River in Georgia. All right, now I'm gonna stop right there, man. And this from this book right here. I read that part before, but the other part I didn't read about slave raids, man. You didn't have to go to Africa to get your slaves. The original slaves, blacks who were enslaved, who were prisoners of war, were here in America. They didn't come from Africa. So when you hear those idiots from the Amon Ra Squad, excuse me, them idiots from the Amon Ra Squad, Cyrus Hussein, that moron Umar Johnson, and these Negro historians at these white institutions or these Negro HBCU universities telling you that you originated on a slave plantation in Africa and we all originated from Africa and we weren't here before the red man, whatever the hell the red man is, tells me they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And I just read you right there, they're talking about doing heavy slavery here in the Americas. Now, if there was these so-called Mongoloid red people, where the hell they at? These were Negroes who were already here, who knew the land, who knew how to pick cotton, who knew how to make sweet potatoes and various different dishes, American dishes here in Americas, because they were aboriginal to this damn land. They weren't foreigners. So you're going to have to stop listening to people like Umar Johnson, because he insults our ancestors constantly using the term pretendians, which our people are the original Indians. Then I hear some of these Africans, particularly females, telling us who we are. They don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they need to shut the hell up and do some really research on our people's history. They're Africans or first generations running their mouth about us, and they don't know nothing about us. Now, I'm not saying all, but too many of them running their mouths, and they need to shut the hell up. This stuff is right in your face, man. When I read you those names, like I said, Tennessee, Hiawassee, Kankakee, Appalachia, Geechee. That was Ogeechee River in Georgia. This stuff is so damn obvious, man. Them Geechees didn't come from no African slaves. I said this before. They're not descendants of no damn African slaves. They're not descendants of no damn African slaves. They're descendants of Aboriginal black people who was already here, who took in some slaves. But unfortunately, that slave narrative has hijacked the origin of the majority of the people who were the Gwale, Alaguchi, or Gullah, Ogeechee, Geechee. That slave narrative from Africa has hijacked the majority of people who were Aboriginal and indigenous to this land. And many of them niggas forgot who they really are. But we were already here. This is our land. I'm going to continue to home on this, man, because the narrative that they give you that you brought over in ships packed like sardines is a lie. That would not have happened coming over the Atlantic. Those ships would have flipped or sunk in the Atlantic. Do not believe that mess. But see, some of us who are truly educated know that's a lie. But a lot of us who are not educated, who have been heavily indoctrinated, but received some kind of diploma or degree and bragged about it, or multiple degrees from these white folks and bragged about it, just show how much not only have been heavily indoctrinated, but they're very ignorant. Extremely ignorant. And this is why it's very important to do the research. I've done the research, and I know that Sarah Susan said they don't know what the hell he's talking about. I know that I'm on Roscoe, especially that brother Reggie guy. He seems kind of slow. And all those other idiots who with that Sarnetta, they're ignorant, man, because they don't know nothing. They're going to continue to talk about what Dr. John Henry Clark said is. I don't give a damn what he said. You're supposed to have a brain up there to critically evaluate and analyze information, and just reading something verbatim and not try to basically be very critical of what you're reading, or basically know how to comprehend and understand what you're reading. Because you read a lot of these books written by these white scholars, they'll say black and the Yamasi, when both of them are so-called black people. That's a bunch of crock, man. This is where you got to understand what you're reading, what you're dealing with when it comes to this information. Because I always tell you in my previous videos, the information is out there. It's up to you to want to seek it and want to take it and want to enhance that knowledge and grow as a person and start learning who you truly are. And you're sure as hell not a descendant of no damn African slave. There's very different types of black people that were here. And we hear these goofballs like Brother Reggie sit there talking about, well, the people who came from the Pacific coast look anatomically black people, but they weren't black people. That's like saying the ancient Egyptians were black-skinned Caucasian. They're black, but they weren't Negro black. What kind of nonsense is that? Like I said before, these Negroes are being paid. They had their handlers. They're being paid off to lie and to cause confusion. That's what they're doing. They have someone who's paying them off. These Negroes on these platforms, they're being paid off by someone's giving them money to disseminate negative and distorted and lying information to our people, man. This got to stop. Well, this is common sense. And they're just ignoring it and just deflecting. It sound like these white historians who wanted to claim Egypt all them years. And they're still trying to do that. These Negroes doing when it comes to ancient American history. Some of these Negroes might be sleeping with these white, pale-skinned people, man. And talking that black power nonsense. This is how corrupt and a bunch of frauds they are, man. Learn your true history. Understand your true history. Take back your